Welcome to the Online Entrepreneur Experience podcast that details the ins and outs, the how-tos, and the ups and downs of living a life of an online business owner. Welcome back to another episode of the Online Entrepreneur Experience. As always, I'm Deuces. Over here, we've got John Olson, aka Cheers, baby. How you doing, man?
I'm doing amazing. How are you doing, Deuce?
Good, man. So today, guys, we want to talk to you about failures and what's actually on the other side of that failure so that you don't get discouraged and you don't want to quit every single time you encounter a failure, because let's face it, it's gonna happen. Always.
Oh, definitely.
Yeah.
And it happens more often than you want sometimes.
Yeah, probably what most of the times the failures happen when you least expect it and when you are not prepared for it. So on that note, how do we know if what we're encountering is actually a failure and not just a hiccup? And how can we get past all of that? Is there any telltale signs of the difference between those two?
Oh, definitely. Having a hiccup in your life and like thinking it's a failure, look at a failure as if it keeps happening over and over again. Say you're working on a project that fails for 5, 6 weeks straight and you're not changing anything. At that point, you know you're failing. And I wouldn't even go out that far. But if you try something and it just kind of bombs out, make a small variable change and just try it again. And if it works, well, then you just had a little hiccup. It's just a little speed bump versus doing the same action over and over and over and over and expecting a different result. Technically, that's insanity.
Yeah.
So that's how you can tell if it's a hiccup. Try it for a little bit and make sure that you're taking notes at what is happening and why it's happening. And if you can't figure it out, ask someone.
Yeah, total sense, man. So with a failure, I look at a failure as something that, because as you are progressing and you are trying to achieve something, I don't care what that is, whatever that desired outcome is for you, as you are progressing and trying to achieve that, you're going to encounter those hiccups, those speed bumps, and even a failure. To me, a failure is something that makes you want to quit. It's so big. Like a little hiccup is like, oh, well, that sucked. That didn't work. Okay, well, let's go around that speed bump next time and let's keep going, right? So when we do encounter a failure or when we feel like giving up, how can we look past that and stay motivated and keep working towards our goal?
That's very simple. It's simplistic. Look at your end goal. Why did you start in the first place? Because that is going to drive you through anything that gets in your way. It's that end result and your why. If you're not passionate about something and you hit a failure, most likely you're going to quit instantly. You're going to find an excuse why this isn't going to work for you. But if you're passionate about it and you're focusing on that why you started and that end result that you want to achieve, which isn't the end, because once you hit that certain goal mark, you're going to find another one. But that's the easiest way to keep going through failure and turbulence, is to ask yourself why you started. Is it worth pushing forward? At the time of your why, yes, it was. So what changed, if it did change at all? So is the end result worth going through what you're going through? And if not, make a small variable change on your goal and what are you passionate about, readjust and keep going.
Yeah, that's awesome. That's so awesome. It all starts with clarity.
Yeah.
What you want and exactly why you want it. Because when you do encounter these failures, because I like to say that because we all know that saying, there's two guarantees in life, death and taxes. I like to say that there's three guarantees in life, death, taxes, and failures. So It's going to happen. It's inevitable. So is there anything that we can do to minimize the frequency that these failures occur, or try to get rid of them altogether?
Getting rid of them altogether, that's a no. That's not gonna happen. That's never gonna happen. Um, Even if they're super small, you can minimize them by waking up with positive affirmations and having a good mental attitude throughout the day. Which, what I mean by that is, if you do hit a hiccup or fail a little bit, turn it into a positive. I learned how to not do that. And now I'm going to readjust and learn how to do it. And even if I fail again, I'm learning how not to do it. So when you switch your mindset, I think last episode I talked about the stick.
Yeah.
I went like this. There's a positive and a negative end. We'll try to lean towards that positive end at all times. And what that does is it shifts your mindset to actually look at failure as a blessing. So, it's like when I was growing up, I skateboarded all the time. I was trying to land a 360 flip for a better part of a month and a half, but I was getting better and better and better. You know how good it felt to land my first one that was sketchy as heck? Like I like whipped my board in the woods and went off running and screaming and yeah. So I mean, you got to focus on, you are getting better even if you don't see the results. You brought it up, I believe, last episode again. You don't just go to the gym one time and
Yeah.
expect on them, but the more you work at stuff and focus on that end goal, and I kind of went on a rant there, but that's how you minimize your failures is switch your mindset because they're still going to be there. But if you're not thinking about them, do they really exist?
Yeah.
If a tree falls in the woods, does it really make a noise? Not if somebody's not there to witness
Yeah.
it. you
That's
know?
that's a great way of looking at it. Um, so if you're super positive about everything and you encounter a little hiccup, a speed bump, or even a almost a catastrophic failure, if you
Yeah.
have the right mindset, then is it really a failure? Because you're just going to overcome it anyway. And I
Yeah.
love the analogy you used of the 360 flip, because back when I was growing up, I was also a skateboarder and I would skateboard around all the time. And at this point, I had already quit for maybe a year, but my brother was out front with his friend and they were practicing their 360 flips just on the grass so that they didn't
Oh,
kick out and fall.
yeah.
And I was like, "Oh, what are you doing?" They're like, "Oh, we're doing a 360 flip." And then they showed me what they're doing with their feet to try to make it happen. So
Yeah.
after a year of not skateboarding, I tried to hop on that thing and do a 360 flip. Nailed it first try, never did it again. It was complete fluke, which happens in life as well. You do have
Absolutely.
those people that don't seem to encounter those failures to reach a certain goal, but that could be because they have an innate skill. That doesn't mean you will not encounter the same failures. So, what happens when we have the courage to overcome these failures? What's on the other side?
Everything you ever dreamed of. It's like, the cave that, you're too scared to go into. Well, that's where all your riches are held.
Mm.
You can't see beyond your own nose in that dark cave. But, well, newsflash, you brought a flashlight with, so turn that on. Hence your mind. You just keep moving and don't let fear trip you up ever. I catch myself saying, I don't want to do this because I don't know how. And I'm afraid to fail.
Mm.
So I think I kind of jibbed that one. What was the question again exactly?
The question was, what happens when we find courage to work past our failures and what's on the other side?
It's what you're actually going towards, and probably more because you learn so much along the path and through the failures that you hit. You're probably going to have more on the other end you really bit off that you really wanted because you're going to be a better entrepreneur. You're going to be a better skateboarder because you're learning throughout the way of failing and actually moving forward with your life. So every day is a learning lesson. I don't care what you're doing. If you're laying in bed all day and you're just watching TV, I bet you any money you'll learn something. But that's all part of failure. That's all part of just life in itself. People get so hung up on that word failure.
Hmm.
Well, it's a necessity, and you should actually be grateful for it. I'll use the airplane analogy. Without pushback, you're never going to fly ever.
Yeah.
Turbulence. That's the only thing that lifts that airplane off the ground.
Yeah.
If
So
everything was handed to you on a silver platter, you'd never learn anything.
no, exactly. If everything was done for you, you would never actually learn those lessons. So on the other side of a failure, there's always a lesson to be learned because you're always
Yes,
growing, right? So are
absolutely.
failures necessary to learn these lessons?
I would say yes. There is certain things that people, like you said, just pick up on. They don't fail that much at certain things. Like, there's some people that just have a knack for writing. They can sit down and write a novel without even thinking about it. But in their mind, it's probably not that good. But other people read it and they're like, oh my gosh, I could never do
Yeah.
that. That's the number one. Those are the words that should never come out of your mouth. I could never do that
Yeah.
and you hear it every day. Go walk through your local grocery store and be like, and just walk by and say skydiving. You'll probably hear the person just, they don't even know that you're talking to them, but they'll just be like, I could never do that. Try. I've
Yeah.
done it. I've walked through because I actually wrote it down in my notebook and I started laughing. I was by myself. Somebody was watching me. They probably think I was crazy. But I was sitting in my house and I wrote it down and I'm like, I'm going to go try this. And I went to Walmart and I walked by this lady. I said, skydiving. And she had literally turned around and said, I could never do that.
Oh,
And I
that's
was
funny.
like, it worked. But those words should never come out of your mouth. What's his name? Matthew McConaughey. His word that he absolutely hates is impossible. He did a whole seminar on it. He's like, and he was like livid about it, but he's like, oh, that's impossible. It's like nothing's impossible. We flew people to the moon and got them back to Earth safely, and it's like, say that back in 1915. Be like, I'm gonna go put a guy on the moon with a rocket ship. They're gonna put you in a psych ward, man.
What I gather from what you said is you can learn things without a failure, but the failure teaches the lesson you didn't know you needed, right?
Yeah, exactly.
You can learn about working out and losing weight and all this stuff, and you're focused on your fitness plan, but all of a sudden there's a failure because that's a lesson that you didn't know you needed to learn. And that failure could be your nutrition. You didn't know you needed to learn that. So that failure right there just told you, hey, there's a lesson to be learned here. You need to learn this in order to progress and actually get what you wanted. So would you say that failures are a part of life and they're actually a good thing?
Yeah. I mean, I wouldn't be anywhere near the person I am today without failing as many times as I did. The exact amount of times that I needed to fail, I did, because that's how the universe works.
Yeah.
I mean, there's people that go out, I don't know if they look for it or what, but it just seems to follow them around a little bit more. Um, but all hard lessons learned, like for me as a person, as a whole, as an entrepreneur, as a coach, I love failing. I mean, at the time, no, it's like
Yeah.
stubbing your toe. You just want to, I don't know, punch a wall or something. But then afterwards, you're like, that failure was perfect because it showed me what not to do. And most of the time, within the next 3 to 4 weeks, somebody comes at me with that same question of exactly what I just went through. So it's like, I know the answer to this because I
Yeah.
just did it, and it almost gets you excited. Like, yes, I'm glad I failed last week.
Yeah.
And I'm sure you've been there as a coach and life mentor and all that too.
Yeah.
You know,
So when you are encountering your struggles or going through that failure, yeah, it sucks. It
uh,
sucks because you are battling yourself because now you've got your scale. Oh, should I quit or should I not? And then the idea is to have more on the scale of reasons not to quit than reasons to quit. And it could end up balancing out pretty close, but then you just got to throw a little weight on the not quit side just to keep pushing. And it sucks. It is a struggle sometimes, but like John was saying, there is that lesson, and as soon as you push past, you've just leveled yourself up. Now you have not only overcome the failure, but now you have the lesson that can be learned, and you will not do that same thing again, right? And if you do, well, you didn't learn the lesson all the way. So
Yeah, if you keep hitting yourself in it with a hammer in the head, it feels really good when you stop.
yeah.
So, you know,
Yeah, I'm gonna hit
don't
myself in
keep
the head
doing the
with a
same thing.
hammer.
Yeah, just don't keep doing that because
Yeah.
it's not beneficial for anybody.
It's
Yeah,
like touching the hot stove. If
yeah,
you touch it and you burn yourself, you've learned a lesson. But if you do it again and
yeah,
then again and again and again, it's like, come on, man. What's it gonna take for you to learn this lesson? I applaud your tenacity, but
yeah,
come on, you just can't touch that.
yeah. And that's just it. That's, some people are just, that's why the universe will keep teaching you the same lesson over and over until you get it right. Like,
Yeah.
why is this happening to me again? Well, why do you keep doing the same thing? If I threw a bunch of nails in the front yard and I drove through it, I popped all four of my tires. Well, then I'm like, well, let's try it again. Put new tires on it and drive through it again. Well, I mean, you know,
Clean up the damn nails, son.
yeah, put a magnet down and start dragging that thing.
I think we've beat this failure topic to death.
I think so.
So again, guys, if you have any questions, please put it in the comments. Hit the bell button and subscribe to our channel so that you get a lot more of this knowledge that we keep dropping every single week. And as again, guys, we have that contest going on. So make sure you pop in the comments for your chance to win that $100 gift card. So appreciate you for showing up.
Showing up and showing out.
That's right. Okay, guys. See you on the next one.
Thanks for tuning into the Online Entrepreneur Experience. Don't forget to subscribe so you don't miss any episodes that we're releasing and any of these amazing pieces of value that we're giving out. And if you could take the time out of your day and leave us a review, we would be so grateful. We look forward to seeing you on that next episode.